In today's video, it is going to be a special video because this is a collab that I'm doing with some other people on this platform. So there is about 7 of us that's going to be doing this collab today, and the collab is going to be about things inspired by fairy stories. Now, I thought that this was perfect because I decided that I'm going to incorporate this into one of my Brothers Grimm series illustrations. So this kind of worked out perfect. And as stated in a YouTube message that I put out to everyone, this video is going to be a little bit later, as you know, than my usual upload times because of the time for the people with the collab. Now, the people in the collab are in the UK and even further into Europe, whereas I'm in Australia on the other side of the world. But surprisingly, I'm only 9 hours ahead of the UK. So that was an interesting fact to learn. I thought it was like a good day, but anyway, these wonderful people that I'm going to be doing a collab with, I will have their links down in the description below. Please go and check them out. The other people are Annie, Emily, Gabby, Johnny, Casper, and Zoe. And I would like to welcome the people who have come across from the other people's video that you have watched, and I do apologize because I'm probably not what you thought I was going to be, and I apologize for what you're going to see. If you don't like this video, I don't recommend delving into my other ones. Now, I just want to start off with a big thanks to Annie and Johnny for setting this collab up. They were both the curators for this, and I am very, very happy that you contacted me to want to do this collab with you guys. So thank you. The fairy tale story that I'm going to be doing today is from the Brothers Grimm, and it is called Faithful John. Now, I just want to put a disclaimer on this. The picture is not going to be a very nice one. It is the worst case scenario in this story if you have already read it. It is right at the end, and it's very gruesome. It involves 2 kids. So, yeah, you've been warned. I'm just putting a warning on. So let's start this story. Faithful John. There once was an old king that laid in his deathbed, dying from an illness. He called for his servant, Faithful John, to come to his side because this servant had always been true to him all his life. The old king said to Faithful John to promise him that he would look after his young son on his death, show his young son every part of the castle except the long gallery, as there was a picture of the golden princess that would enchant the young son and make him fall violently in love with her, and a curse would be bestowed upon him. Faithful John promised to give his life to save and protect the son. Then at that moment, the king felt as though his son was in great hands, and he died. At the funeral, Faithful John told the son that it was time to show him the castle, as now he is the king. Faithful John took the young king everywhere through the castle, but when they got to the door of the long gallery, he said to the young king that he was never to go in. The young king protested and demanded that Faithful John unlock the door or he would not move. He promised the old king, but he saw the determination in the young king's eyes and gave in. He unlocked the door and tried to move the picture of the golden princess, but the young king saw it. He demanded to know who the girl was. Faithful John said, "It is the princess of the golden dwelling." The young king said, "You must take me to her so I can win her love." So Faithful John did. Faithful John informed the young king that this princess loved gold and had gold everywhere in the kingdom. She had 5 tons of it. Faithful John got the goldsmiths in the kingdom to make objects out of gold that may win her over, so the young king had a chance. they placed the items into their merchant clothing that they wore as a disguise, so no one would recognize the young king. They got onto a ship and sailed to the shore where the princess was. Once they got there, Faithful John said to the young king, "Stay on the boat and I will bring her to you." Faithful John located the princess and approached her. She was standing there with 2 golden pails ready to get water when Faithful John opened his merchant clothing, introducing himself as a merchant and showing her the small gold things. Her father, the king of this kingdom, saw these items and wanted them. So did his daughter. But Faithful John said that these are nothing compared to what his rich merchant boss had back on the ship. Intrigued, the princess followed Faithful John to the ship where the young king was. When the young king saw her, he was mesmerized and his heart yearned for her. He took her and showed her all the golden items that were made. Faithful John then notified the ship to take off back home with the princess aboard. Several hours went by and the princess did not realize that the boat was well and truly at sea until she went to go home. When she saw that she was deep at sea, she cried, feeling silly that she had fallen for a merchant's trick. The young king heard her say this and said, "No, I am not a merchant, but a king. I saw your picture and travelled to meet you." In hearing this, she was comforted and agreed to be his wife. Faithful John sat at the front of the ship making beautiful music when he saw 3 crows flying above in the sky. The crows were having a conversation with each other, talking about how the young king finally got her, but he will not keep her as a horse will take him away when they reach land. The only way this would not happen is if the horse was killed, but it doesn't stop there. If someone kills the horse and both the princess and the young king make it to the castle, a garment will be waiting for the young king that will burn him to his bone. One of the crows questioned this and wanted to know if this could be stopped. The other crows said yes. Someone must have gloves on, take the garment to fire and destroy it. But it's still not over. At their wedding dance, the princess would go pale and drop dead. But if someone sucked 3 drops of blood from her right breast and spits it out, she will be saved. But the person may never tell the young king, or the young king will turn to stone. Faithful John took this on board and was prepared for it all, but Faithful John was saddened inside. He would not let anything happen to him as he promised to the old king. Once they got to shore, as predicted by the crows, the horse was there. Faithful John jumped on it, took a gun and shot it dead. The attendants were horrified, but the young king backed Faithful John and defended him. When they got to the castle, in the bedroom was the deadly garment. Faithful John picked it up and threw it in the fire to destroy it. The attendants were horrified again, but the young king defended Faithful John once again. The young king and princess got married, and at their dance, the princess goes pale and dies. Faithful John picked her up, sucked 3 drops from her breast, and spat them out. She was breathing again and woke up. Now the young king was getting a little annoyed at what was going on, so he had Faithful John thrown into the dungeon. The next morning, Faithful John was sentenced to death by the gallows. Just before he was about to die, Faithful John wanted one request to speak his last words. The young king granted this, and Faithful John told him all about the curse and what the crows had said at sea, and his promise to the old king to keep him safe. The young king said to the attendants to bring him down from the gallows, and he apologized. But as soon as this happened, Faithful John dropped down and turned to stone. From then on, the young king and queen suffered anguish. The young king had Faithful John's stone body placed in their bedroom, wishing that they could bring him back to life somehow. Years go by, and the young king and queen have twins, 2 sons. One day, when the twins were older, they were sitting in church, and the king, queen, and the 2 sons were there, playing beside them. When the king looked at the stone statue of Faithful John and wished that he could come back to life, the statue started to speak and said, "If you wanted me to come back to life, you must be the one to cut off the heads of your sons and smear me with their blood." The king was horrified, but would do anything to have Faithful John back after what he had done for them. The king took his sword and cut the heads of his 2 twin sons, spraying their blood on Faithful John's stone body. Next minute, Faithful John stood there, alive and well. Faithful John said to the king, "Thank you. This will not go unrewarded." He picked up the kids' heads and placed them back onto their bodies, and the kids were alive once again, running around like nothing had happened and happy. The king was so happy that he hid all of them in the church cupboard to surprise his queen. Once the queen came into the room, she told the king that she would do anything for Faithful John to come back, and the king said, "It takes killing the twins to bring him back." She was horrified at first, but she was willing to sacrifice them to bring Faithful John back. The king was so happy that he opened up the cupboard door, and Faithful John and the twins emerged. They were all so happy, and they lived happily ever after until their natural deaths. Wow. Like I say, after all these fairy tales that the Brothers Grimm had collected over the years from people back in their century, far out. One thing that I always pick up on these stories is there's a lot of like questionable things in there, like they had Faithful John in their bedroom and then all of a sudden he's in the church with them. Like, did they carry his big stone body to the church? Like, there's a lot of things that don't make sense and are left out in these stories. But I suppose for the time that they were written and collected by the Brothers Grimm, there's probably some interesting times and the wording was probably quite different. But anyway, if you would love to join in and do your own drawing inspired by fairy stories, I will have a hashtag in the description as well, and if you want to draw it and share it to us all so we can see it, that'd be great. As warned, the illustration that I did for this story for Faithful John was the part where the young king cuts off his own son's heads. Now, I didn't include the stone body of Faithful John. I just left that out. I just wanted the picture to focus on the gruesome aspect of like the twins having no heads and having their heads chopped off with the sword in the background, just wedged back into the ground with blood all over it. It's a simple illustration. I didn't want to go into too much depth with this one, like I have in the past with a lot of the Brothers Grimm ones. But I just want to get the point across that, yeah, the twins had their heads cut off, but they ended up being all right in the end. So that is it from me. Please go check out the other people. Like I said, description and the links are down in the description below if you want to check them out. And hopefully you enjoyed this and you enjoy the others, and I'm guaranteed you'll enjoy the others. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.